children, wishing you a fantastic day. Take your readers, pen, pencil to jot down the notes. So far, we have learned from the lesson what is moral action by Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, that a moral action should be good, it should have a good intention, and it should not be done with fear and compulsion. So now you can see here the points to remember. It should not spring from our, it should spring from our own will. And when Gandhiji regards it that we have stepped onto the moral road, then it is not enough that an action should be by done, that is done by us is in itself good. It should have been done with intention to do good. Then about the intention of Alexander's invasion, behind all that only there was conquest and renown. He wanted to become famous, and it is not enough for a moral act to have been done with a good intention, but it should have been done without compulsion. So now we'll get into the class. Page number 75, point number 4, sixth line. Likewise, it is only selfish and not moral of an employer to sympathize with his employees or to pay them higher wages lest they leave him. It would be moral if the employer wished well of them and treated them kindly, realizing how he owed his prosperity to them. This means that an act to be moral, it has to be free from fear and compulsion. So, if an employer pays higher salary to his employees just to retain them in the office and sympathizes or pities them only of the fear, otherwise they would leave him. Okay, only out of that fear, if he pays them good wages, then it is not a moral act. But it would be a moral act if the employer pays higher wages to his employees, or he wished them to lead a happy life. All his workers should live a happy life, should lead a happy life, and also treated them, the workers, kindly, realizing that he owed a lot for his well off. He is well off in his life. The owner is well off in his life, and he is prospered only because of them. He realized that he has to repay in return to them because he has prospered in life only because of their hard work and determination. So these instances show that a moral act should be free from fear and compulsion too. When the peasants rose in revolt and with bloodshot eyes went to King Richard II of England demanding their rights, he granted them the rights under his own seal and signature. But when the danger was over, he forced them to surrender the letters. It would be a mistake for anyone to say that King Richard's first act was moral and the second immoral. For his first act was done only out of fear and had not an iota of morality about it. So here Gandhiji says once when the farmers, the peasants means the farmers, once when they revolted, means rebelled against King Richard II of England. King Richard II, he lived between 1377 to 1399. He was the British king who was forced to resign from the crown in favor of his cousin Henry Bolingbroke, that is Henry IV, and he, King Richard II, he died at the prison. So he, once when the farmers revolted against him, King Richard II of England, and went to him with bloodshot eyes. Bloodshot eyes means reddish eyes, which expresses their anger and anger, demanding their rights. He granted them the rights under his own seal and signature. So once when they, with anger, great anger, when the peasants went revolted against him, he sanctioned them their demands. And later, when the king realized that he was out of danger, he forced them to surrender those letters. So it would be a mistake if anyone states that the first act of King Richard II was moral and the second was immoral. The first act is non-moral. He signed the letters out of fear that the peasants might kill him. So out of fear, he signed the letters. So it is a non-moral act. And the second one, what he did after he found that he was out of danger, he asked them to surrender those letters. So it is an immoral act. So if anyone says that the first act is a moral, it is wrong. The first act of accepting their demands was just only out of fear. There was not even an iota. Iota means a very small amount of morality in it. There is no morality in it. Now, a question to you. When does an employer's action of paying higher salary to his employees remain non-moral? If an employer, answer, okay, if an employer pays higher salary to his employees just to retain them and sympathizes with them only out of fear, otherwise they would leave the job, then it is not a moral action. Okay, next one. What did King Richard do during the revolt? What did he do during the revolt? He signed once when the peasants came with red shot eyes, bloodshot eyes, he signed the letters, and then later when he knew that he was out of danger, he asked them to surrender those letters. So the first act is a non-moral act and the second one is an immoral act. So in last point we have seen that a moral action should be done of no fear and compulsion. Next one. Just as a moral action should be free from fear or compulsion, so should there be no self-interest behind it. This is not to say that actions prompted by self-interest are worthless, but only that to call them moral would detract from the dignity of the moral idea. That honesty cannot long endure, which is practiced in the belief that it is the best policy. As Shakespeare says, love born out of the profit motive is no love. So just as a moral action should be free from fear and compulsion. So we have seen a moral action should be free from fear and compulsion. Likewise, there should be no self-interest. It means it should not be advantageous to one particular person, or it should not be like self-serving purpose. If there is something behind a moral act, such kind being advantageous to a person or self-serving purpose, then it cannot be called as a moral act. So this doesn't mean that all action done with self-interest are unworthy. So an action done with self-interest, you cannot say that all the actions are unworthy. They are worthless. But the only thing is it would not be much impressive, or it would not be much valid in calling them as a moral act. Only thing, you cannot call those kind of acts as a moral act. You all know the popular saying, honesty is the best policy. Honesty would not be long lasting. Endure means long lasting. Honesty cannot be long lasting or lasting for a long period of time if it is practiced in the belief that it is the best policy. If a person speaks, wants to be honest in life, if he is honest only for the sake it is the best policy, then you cannot say that it is a moral act. Being honest because it is good. It is a duty to be honest to all, not because it is the best policy. You have to be honest because it is good. It's a duty to be honest to all, not because it is the best policy. So to support this statement, Gandhiji quotes Shakespeare's love born out of profit motive is no love. If a person loves for some beneficial reason, okay, or maybe because of due to money or beauty or wealth, it is not true love. It can never be considered as a true love. One day that beauty or wealth or that money, it may depreciate, so the love also might vanish away. So Gandhiji takes Shakespeare's quotes to strengthen his argument that if honesty is practiced merely just because it is the best policy, then it cannot be long lasting. So now, important question now. When does Gandhiji quote Shakespeare's? What argument does he want to strengthen? Gandhiji quotes Shakespeare's. The quotings, love born out of a profit motive is no love, to strengthen his argument that if honesty is practiced merely because it is the best policy, then it cannot be long lasting. Next point. Just as an action prompted by the motive of material gain on earth is non-moral, so also another done for consideration of comfort and personal happiness in another world is non-moral. Mahatma Gandhiji said that just like an action done with motive of material gain in this world is non-moral, likewise the actions done for the comfort and personal happiness in the next or the other world, next world. Some people they believe, like life after death. Okay, so that is will also be regarded as non-moral. We think if I lead a good life now, after my death, I will be taken to heaven. I can have a comfort and happiness in the other world. This would be considered as a non-moral action. An action that is done only for the sake of doing good is a moral action. Very simple, no? Like an action that is done only for the sake of doing good, then it is a moral action. If you think, if I live a good life now, lead a good life now, then later when I die, I can be taken to heaven, or I can have comfort and happiness in the next world, then it will become a non-moral action. An action becomes moral when it is done only for the sake of doing good. Gandhiji quoted the example. So here he quotes the example of two great saints to strengthen this comments. First he says about a great Christian, St. Francis Xavier, who lived between 1506 to 1552, a Jesuit missionary known as the Apostle of the Indies. who brought Christianity to India, Southeast Asia, Japan, etc. He was associated with Ignatius of Loyola in founding the order of Jesuits. St. Francis Xavier always very fervently and strongly he prayed that his mind should always remain pure. He always prayed, very strongly he prayed that his mind should always remain pure. For him, devotion to God was not just for enjoying a higher seat after death. Expressing the love and loyalty towards God was not to attain or enjoy a higher seat in heaven. He just prayed because it was his duty to pray. This question it was asked this year. Okay, why did he pray? He prayed because it was just his duty. And what did he pray? That always his mind should remain pure. Okay, always it should remain pure. That is what he prayed. St. Francis Xavier, he prayed that his mind should always remain pure. And why did he pray? Because it was the man's duty. It was not that if I pray, if I be good, like after my death, I'll be taken to heaven and I can enjoy the higher seat after death. That was not his intention. And next we can see about the great Saint Teresa. She wished, so Saint Teresa, a great saint, Saint Francis Xavier, passionately prayed that his mind might always remain pure. For him, devotion to God was not or enjoying a higher seat after death. He prayed because it was man's duty to pray. The great Saint Teresa wished to have a torch in her right hand and a vessel of water in her left, so that with one she might burn the glories of heaven and with the other extinguish the fires of hell, and men might learn to serve God from love alone, without fear of hell and without temptation of heavenly bliss. The next he says about Saint Teresa, who wished to have a torch in her hand. In her right hand, she wanted to have a torch and a vessel of water in her left hand. The torch in her right hand, it was to show that like the torch, the light may destroy the strong feeling of desire that attracts to the eternal happiness in heaven. And the vessel of water in her left hand might put down the fear of the flames of fire in hell. She wanted people to serve God out of love alone. So her intention was we should not be attracted by the happiness that you can enjoy in heaven or not of the fear of the flames of fire in hell. She wanted to serve God only out of love alone, without the fear of hell and the temptation of heavenly bliss, that happiness in heaven. Thus, Gandhiji says that we have to do moral action because it is the right thing to do. It is good. It is my duty. I have to do it. And not because it gives either earthly or heavenly benefits. And who's Saint Teresa? She's she lived between 1515 to 1582. Saint Teresa of Avila. She was a Spanish nun and reformer of the Carmelite order. She wrote about her own mystical experiences. Okay, now why did Saint Teresa wanted to have what did she want to have in her hands? She wished to have a torch in her right hand and a vessel in her left hand. Next, to preserve morality thus demands a brave man prepared to face even death. It is cowardice to be true to friends and to break faith with enemies. Those who do good out of fear and haltingly have no moral virtue. So, to retain morality, a brave man should be ready to face even death. Okay, to retain, to be moral, a brave man should be ready, should be prepared to face even death. Gandhiji says that it is cowardice to be true to friends and to break loyalty or faith with enemies. If people are good out of fear, and haltingly means a hesitation, then it has no moral value. People, if they behave good, if they are good, behave good only out of fear and hesitation, then it cannot be called as a moral action. Henry Clay, he was known for his kindliness, sacrificed his convictions to his ambition. Henry Clay, he lived between 1777 to 1852. He was an American statesman and an orator. He was known for his kindliness, but he was accused of having forsaken all principles and sacrificed his strong belief in the hope of winning support for his candidature for the presidency in achieving his ambition. Daniel Webster, for all his great intellect and his sense of the heroic and the sublime, once sold his intellectual integrity for a price. By a single mean act, he wiped out all his good deeds. Daniel Webster, he was known for his intelligence and his sense of the heroic excellence, for his supremacy. What he did once, no, he put a price tag for his intellectual integrity. So he sold his intellectual integrity. He was known for it, but once he sold it, means he was not true to being honest. This single cheap act washed away all his good deeds and actions. This shows that it is too difficult to judge a how difficult it is to judge the morality of man's action because we cannot penetrate the depths of his mind. We have also the answer to the question raised at the outset of this chapter. What is moral action? Incidentally, we also saw which kind of men could live up to that morality. So, this shows that it's too difficult to judge a man's morality because one cannot get deep into the depth of a man's mind. No man can judge anyone's morality. We also have the answer to the question raised at the beginning of the chapter. What is the question there? What is moral action? Now, at the end, as a result, we have seen that what kind of a man could live up to that kind of morality. So, according to Gandhiji, to sum up, what is a moral action? An action, it becomes moral when it is good. Point number two, it springs from his own will. Third, it is done with a good intention. Fourth, it should be done without fear or compulsion. Fifth one, it should not have self-interest behind it. And these actions should not be done with expectations of benefit in the life after death. Now a few questions. What should a brave man be prepared to do for morality? A brave man should be prepared to face death for the sake of morality. What act does Gandhiji call as cowardice? Gandhiji calls as cowardice to be true to friends and to break faith with enemies. Who do not have moral virtue? People who do good out of fear and hesitation, they do not have moral virtue. And why is it difficult to judge the morality of a man's action? It is difficult to judge the morality of a man's action because we cannot penetrate into the depth of man's mind. Okay, children, We have successfully completed the lesson. What is moral action? Read the lesson daily carefully without fail. Glossary. Learn these: bliss, happiness, ecstasy, conventional, customary, haltingly, hesitatingly, oppressor, suppressor, penetrate, pierce, unpretentious, modest. Home assignment. Learn and write question number 15, 16, 18, 20 and 21. And paragraph writing question number 1. In your classwork, write this and post it tomorrow without fail. Read point number 5 and 6, 6 already. 1 to 4 is completed. Today 5 and 6, so the lesson is completed. Read the whole lesson from your textbook. And grammar, do page number 85. Be mean, 1 to 10. Last class you have done it, and now 11 to 20, and post it in the group on time. Thank you.